My name is Hido, and welcome to the Pantheon, where today we've got a rather lovely woman and a bit of a big horn. It's Birgi, the god of storytelling. 3 mana for a 3/3 legendary creature, god. And this artwork just looks amazing. That fire just looks so fantastic. Whenever you cast a spell, add red. Wow. Until end of turn, you don't lose this mana as steps and phases end. And then there's some boasting abilities here. Creatures you control can boast twice during each of your turns rather than just once. Absolutely phenomenal. I mean, really, we're building a mono-red boast tribal. That's the direction we want to go down. Of course, I'm joking. We're all about the horn. Fell, Horn of Bounty, is a 5-mana legendary artifact. You can discard a card, exile the top 2 cards of your library. You may play those cards this turn. Absolutely fantastic. Both sides of this are brilliant. You know, you've got card advantage on the one side. You know, if you're falling a bit behind, you know, you've expended a couple of your resources. And on the other is a combo city creating absolute tons of mana. Really, really cool commander. And she's mono red through and through, isn't she? You know, discarding to draw cards, maybe some madness synergies there. And then we've got sort of a storm-based sort of side to her as well. If you like these videos, please do consider subscribing. I'm going to be making one of these for every single legendary creature I've ever printed. And by God, there's a lot of them. But I'll get to everyone eventually. Without further ado, let's have a look at the top 5. And at number 5, we've got Expedite. And all of these cards are 1 mana, draw a card. You know, nice little cantrips. Because with our commander out, guess what? We're going to be making mana off them, or at least getting the mana back, so we can just filter through the deck to get to the cards that we want. Expedite is a single red instant. Target creature gains haste until end of turn and draw a card. That's the main thing we want here. This is really good on both sides of our commander. You know, with our creature side, we get mana, you know, the mana that we've just spent for it. On the other side, if we discard a card and get one of these, it gets us a card back into our hand just for just a single red. So it's really, really powerful and can just churn through the deck magnificently. To go along with this, we've got Crash Through, single red for a sorcery. Creature control gain trample until end of turn. Draw a card. Ooh, Dragon Mantle, 1 mana for a red enchantment. When it enters the battlefield, draw a card. An enchanted creature has fire breathing. Absolutely wonderful. Then we got Renegade Tactics, single red for a sorcery. Target creature can't block this turn. Draw a card. As you can see, these just churn through the deck, you know, trigger prowess, things like that, and we can just get tons and tons of value. Then we've got Rile. Rile deals 1 damage to target creature you control. That creature gains trample until end of turn. Draw a card. Then Overmaster, 1 red for a sorcery. The next instant sorcery spell you play this turn can't be countered by spells or ability. Draw a card. This is probably one of the better ones, because if you're going to go for a big storm finisher or something like that, big massive instant sorcery, you want to play this first, then our opponents just can't do anything about it. It's pretty good. And then Gamble. This technically sort of doesn't draw you a card, but it's well worth the inklings. For a single red, sorcery, search your library for a card, put that card into your hand, discard a card at random, then shuffle your library. So technically you will be down on a card, but you've got that high likelihood of keeping your best card. Or, you know, you might want to put something in the graveyard. This is a fantastic card, and, you know, for free with our commander out, works wonderfully. Brings me on to number 4. And at number 4, we've got Underworld Breach. Like, as I said just then, we're going to be discarding a few cards. You know, a lot of cards are going to go into our graveyard because we're just going to be churning through the deck. So let's cast them all again. Underworld Breach is a 2 mana enchantment. Each non-land card in your graveyard has escape. The escape cost is equal to the card's mana cost, plus exile 3 other cards from your graveyard. You may cast the cards from your graveyard for their escape cost. At the beginning of the end step, sacrifice Underworld Breach. Absolutely fantastic. This, yes, we only get it for 1 turn, but can rebuy so much value. All those cantrips that we played, draw us loads of cards, make us tons of mana. Oh, God. Then we got other cards like Wildfire Devils. 4 mana for a Devil 4/2. When it enters the battlefield, or at the beginning of your upkeep, choose a player at random. that player exiles an instant or sorcery card from their graveyard, copy that card, you may cast the copy without paying its mana cost. So this is really awesome, gets us a free mana for the turn, and also, just tons of value. Your opponents could have like a Rise of the Dark Realms in the graveyard, and then guess what? We're casting it. Exactly what mono red deserves to do. Then, if we're talking about getting things back from the graveyard and escape, Ox of Agonis is a great card. 5 mana for a 4/2. When it enters the battlefield, discard your hand and draw 3 cards. So a great way to fill up your graveyard and just churn through your deck while making a mana. But then you can escape for double red and exile 8 other cards from your graveyard. So 8 cards is a big cost, but we should get there through churning through the deck. It escapes with a 1/1 counter on it, and then of course we get to discard a card and draw 3 cards. Really, really awesome. It can help really get through the deck, and it's just a great card to see in your graveyard. Then we've got Dreadhorde Argonist. Argonist? He's made of argon, the element. Wonderful. Powers all sorts of things. I believe argon's in a lot of lamps. 2 mana for a 1/3 with Trample. It's a zombie wizard. Whenever Dreadhorde Arcanist attacks, you may cast target instant or sorcery card with converted mana cost less than or equal to its power from your graveyard without paying its mana cost. If the card will be put into a graveyard this turn, exile it instead. So another great way to get a free mana from our commander. With all the cantrips, we're going to draw a card as well. Just really, really powerful. And if, we've got a fire-breathing effect, we can get our bigger and bigger instants or sorceries. Which brings me on to number 3. And at number 3, we have Priest of Rubrask. 3 mana for a 2/1 human cleric. And when it enters the battlefield, add triple red to your mana pool. So as a baseline, you play this, you've got your mana back. I think it's based on Priest of Yawgmoth, which is an old black card that does essentially the same thing. But with our commander out, this can make us an extra mana. So this is sort of a ritual in itself, and it's developing a body onto the board, which is pretty goddamn cool. There, to go along with it, we've got a couple of other very similar cards. Aki Rock Speaker, 2 mana for a 1/1 when it comes into play. Add a red to your mana pool, so with our commander red out, it buys back the mana we've put into it. So it develops a board on the body on the board, body boards, bodyboarding, buggy boarding, and then you can, get your mana, you can cast another thing, your storm count's going to have increased. Ardent Electromancer is a 3 mana 3/2 when it enters the battlefield. Add red for each creature in your party. So, pretty conditional. Will we have 3 of those party members? Probably not. But this can rebuy us a bit of the mana. As a baseline, it's a wizard, so it gets you 1 red. With our commander, it gets you 2 red. So we just have to have 1 of the other ones, and it's rebought its mana, so you can use on other things. Then we've got Coal Stoker. 4 mana for a 3/3. When it comes into play, if you played it from your hand, add triple red to your mana pool. Really, really good. All of these cards, really nice for churning through your deck, developing a body, and they work exceptionally well with my number 2 pick, which is Cloudstone Curio. 3 mana for an artifact. Whenever a non-artifact permanent comes into play under your control, you may return another permanent you control that shares a permanent type with it to its owner's hand. So, using those cards that we've just mentioned, Priest of Rubrask with our commander out, play it for 3 mana, comes in, we get 4 mana. Then we can bounce something back to our hand that costs 1 or 2 potentially, play it, we get the mana back, bounce Priest of Rubrask back to our hand, instant infinite storm. Really, really cool, works excellently with this commander. And to go along with it, why don't we have a couple of ways to sort of cheat the mana costs, by reducing things. Make Priest of Rubrask cost 2, so we get 4 mana for 2 mana investment. Ruby Medallion is just a great all-around card. 2 mana for an artifact. Red spells you cast cost 1 less to cast. Absolutely phenomenal. Then, if we're going to have everything entering the battlefield over and over again, Impact Tremors is where we want to be. 2 mana for enchantment. Whenever a creature enters the battlefield under your control, it deals 1 damage to each opponent. So, with this loop that we've developed, where, Priest of Rubrask going, whoa, 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 like he's on some kind of crazy roller coaster, we're going to kill all our opponents. Nice. This also works with Perforos, so absolutely wonderful there. Then, Hazoret's Monument, very similar to Ruby Medallion. 3 mana for a legendary artifact. Red creature spells you cast cost 1 generic less to cast. So it is limited to creature spells, but that's pretty alright. Whenever you cast a creature spell, you may discard a card. If you do, draw a card. So if you manage to get this loop going where you're just bouncing creatures up and down, up and down, up and down, you can filter through your deck until you get to your Storm finisher. You know, Grape Shot someone to death. Then, if we're going to be playing some cool Enter the Battlefield effects, why don't we have ones that are really good and we can rebuy over and over again? Fanatic of Mogus, 4 mana for a 4-2. When it's the battlefield, it deals damage to each opponent equal to your devotion to red. As we are a mono red deck, we should have quite a bit of devotion to red, so this can really chunk our opponents out. Then we've got Imperial Recruiter, 3 mana for a 1-1. It's recently just been reprinted in Modern Horizons 2. That's the one. And so you can pick it up for quite cheap. When it enters the battlefield, search your library for a creature card with power 2 or less, reveal it, put it into your hand, then shuffle your library. So it just chooses for absolutely anything you want. Tutors for your Priests of Rubrask. Nice. Then we've got Flamekin Harbinger. You know, if we're playing an elemental package, this is a great card to put in. 1 red for a 1-1 elemental. When it's the battlefield, you may search your library for an elemental card, reveal it, and shuffle your library and put that card on top of it. So find us whatever we want. I think Cold Stoker was an elemental, so this can tutor that up. Which brings me on to number 1. And at number 1, we've got Grinning Ignis. So we've been faffing around with these artifacts, you know, various creatures that make mana. Why don't we just have it all built into one creature? Grinning Ignis is 3 mana for a 2-2 elemental. So, my god, that elemental we just talked about can find this. Woohoo! Pay a red, return it to its owner's hand. Add 2 generic and a red to your mana pool. Activate this ability only anytime you can cast a sorcery. So, with our commander on the field, we cast this for 3 mana. We generate an extra red, use that extra red to return it to our hand. Generate 3 mana. Play 3 mana, generate an extra red, use the red, return it to our hand. Over and over again. This card is amazing in this deck. And just absolute house. If you've got Perforus on the field, they're dead. If you've got, you know, Hazaret Monument, you've drawn all your entire deck. And then you've Grape Shotted them to death. And you've made a ton of mana because it costs 1 less. This card is everything you want in this deck. Then, what Storm finishes have we got? Well, Empty the Warrens is a 4 mana sorcery. Put 2 1-1 red goblin creature tokens into play. Storm. And Storm is basically the mechanic where if you've cast multiple spells in a turn, you get to copy this spell for each of those spells that have been cast this turn, including your opponents. So if there's a counter spell war, you can flop in a Storm card and get a bunch of benefit from it. All of these are sorceries, but you know, there's ways around that. Ignite Memories, 5 mana for a sorcery. Target player reveals a card at random from his or her hand. Ignite Memories deals damage to that player equal to that card's converting mana cost. Storm. So this can be absolutely wonderful. You know, if your opponent simply has a 1 TMC card in their hand and you know, target it with infinite copies, they're going to die eventually. But I'd love to cast this on an opponent's. You know, we've gone infinite, we've got loads of Storm, target it with 20,000 copies. And they just reveal a handful of lands, and we just sit there going, "Oh, right, okay, fair play. You don't die, but you're not doing anything because you've got a handful of lands." But that's the dream. But if you don't want to do, you know, have those wacky sort of dreams, Grape Shot is the card for you. 2 mana for a sorcery. It deals 1 damage to target creature or player with Storm. So if our Storm count is 26,000, we've got 26,000 damage we can fire all over the gaff, being Ban Bosch. Then Aetherflux Reservoir, while not a Storm card, is perfect for this deck. 4 mana for an artifact. Whenever you cast a spell, you gain 1 life for each spell you've cast this turn. Pay 50 life. It deals 50 damage to target creature or player. Absolutely great. We're going to be casting a lot of spells in one turn, so that life gain is going to incrementally go up and up and up. And if we're playing against an aggro deck, it's just not nice to have a bit of life gain knocking around. Then, speaking of like Storm sort of cards, Runaway Steamkin is a 2 mana 1-1. Whenever you cast a red spell, if it is stop, Adam, and reread it. Whenever you cast a red spell, if Runaway Steamkin has fewer than 3 1-1 counters on it, put a 1-1 counter on it. Wow. Then you can remove 3 1-1 counters from it, get triple red. This is absolutely fantastic and works very similar to our commander. Can really help us generate a lot of mana. And you can do this over and over again in a turn. It's pretty goddamn good. You know, if we're chaining through our deck, this is the card we want on the field. And finally, another Storm card, Galvanic Relay, 3 mana for a sorcery. Exile the top card of your library. During your next turn, you may play that card. And it has Storm. So this is really good. Yes, we might not be able to go off this turn, because we can only cast these during our next turn. But it allows us to set up, you know, maybe we have a mini Storm turn, finish on this, exile 8 cards. Next turn, well, we should win the game with all those cards exiled. Unless it's a bunch of lands. You know, lands are the enemy, aren't they? And those are my top 5 cards for Birgi? Bridget? I can't remember her name. But she's a really cool commander, and it's exactly what Mono Red wants to be doing. Comboing uncontrollably. You know, or turning goblins sideways, which you can do with Empty the Warrens. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. I've really enjoyed doing this. If you like this, please subscribe and like and comment, and I'll see you soon. Bye.